Throughout that match, the entirety of the match, I felt nervous. I felt tense. I could feel the blood rushing in my body. I could feel the heat in my neck, in my face. That's how nervous I was. That's how tense I was. Even at 2-0 up late in the match, I still felt tense. I still couldn't relax. And it was only after the match finally ended, the match actually ended, full time whistle, that I finally felt as if I could just relax some and breathe easy. This match, in fact, this whole week, first the match against Real Madrid and now against Man City, Liverpool were excellent, exceptional, in both matches. Not just for the fact that they won, but the manner of victory, the way Liverpool were dominant in both matches. It was a complete performance, in both matches, back to front, in defense, in midfield, in attack. Liverpool Liverpool pressed when it made sense to, and Liverpool also stayed compact in defense when they needed to. They did the right things at the right time, when it made sense to do so, when it was beneficial to do so. It's been a long time. It's been a really, really long time since I saw a team, this complete, just that, giving the sense of not giving much of anything away at all. As mentioned, it was a complete performance against Real Madrid in midweek. It was a complete performance, today against Man City. The team did not give much of anything away, aside from the odd moment, yeah, the penalty, the penalty against Real Madrid, and then the late on in this match when Van Dijk gave the ball away, and then on both occasions when there was that rare mistake in the defense, giving the opponents a big chance, up stepped Kelleher. Big step up, saving the penalty from Mbappe in midweek, and then this point blank save against De Bruyne, late into this match, and both these saves kept the clean sheet for the team, and it kept that winning margin, the 2-goal margin. Okay, at the time the Real Madrid was 1-0 at the time before becoming 2-0, but point is keeping the clean sheet and not letting the opponents back into the game, both against Madrid and against Man City. Absolutely incredible. Now, of course, I'm saying all this with hindsight, now that the match is over, but as the match was going on, and I was watching it, as I mentioned, I was tense the whole time. I was nervous the whole time. Even at 2-0, I just felt like I couldn't relax. Reason being that, despite Man City's issues, which have been very, very well documented, and spoken of by now, despite the missing players, despite the issues, despite whatever kind of lack of form or lack of confidence or lack of results that they've had recently, they are still a tremendous world-class team. And if you make mistakes against Man City, typically they can punish you, and typically they will punish you. Sometimes all it takes is for one mistake that looks innocuous at first, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, and just like that, they're in it, and it's a goal. And again, late on, a very, very uncharacteristic mistake from Van Dijk, and allowed Man City to have that big chance one-on-one with Kelleher. And thankfully on this occasion, Kelleher came up big. He came up trumps. He made the save, and he preserved the 2-0. And so knowing what we know about Man City, and just and how good they can be when they are good, any kind of mistake, big or small, it can have devastating consequences. And that was why I just felt so nervous the whole time. Nervous the whole time, regardless of what the score was. Whether it was 0-0 at the start, whether it was 1-0 for most of the match, whether it was 2-0 late on in the match. But at least, once that final whistle went, it was a huge, it's like a huge release, I don't know what to call it, relief, euphoria, but just wow, especially when you look at the league table, and what this result means for the league table now. So after 13 matches, Liverpool are on 34 points, and they are 9 ahead of both Arsenal and Chelsea, both of them on 25. Then you've got Brighton, who are 4th place on 23 points. And then you have Man City now in 5th place on 22 points. There was always going to be the possibility that even if Liverpool were to win today's match, yes, there'll be 11 points ahead of Man City, but it does not necessarily mean that they will have an 11-point lead at the top of the table against everyone else. Because to do so, it would have required Chelsea, Arsenal, and Brighton all of them to drop points. Actually, in fact, hang on. Oh, I misremembered. Brighton 23 points, and now Man City also 23 points. So 34, 25, 25, 23, 23. Yeah, that's the right tally. But anyway, for it to have been an 11-point lead against everyone at the top of the table, it would have required Chelsea, Arsenal, and Brighton all to drop points in their respective matches this weekend. So so that any of those three would have been either 23 or 22 points. But regardless, a 9-point lead, over them at this stage of the season is still a sizable gap. It is still an impressive lead. That will take. At this point, even if they try and catch up, it will take at least 2 or 3 matches to do so. And that's provided that Liverpool somehow go on a losing run, and for the teams below to go on a winning run and to catch up. And who's to say that maybe Liverpool might somehow increase the lead again by the turn of the year? Who knows? I mentioned a complete performance by the team just now, back to front. Again, the forward line pressed when it made sense to. The whole team stayed compact in defense when they needed to, and especially there were periods, especially some periods in the first half, Liverpool had to defend compact when Man City had some sustained possession, and they especially needed to do so for good chunks of the second half when it seemed like Man City were on the ascendancy. They were keeping the ball better. They were trying to create attacks. They were having corners, etc., etc. It had to be compact. And especially, so speaking of the defense, especially Virgil van Dijk. Aside from that very uncharacteristic mistake, late in the second half, he was, absolutely, he was the epitome of an absolute top defender. The number of times he made interceptions, he won the ball, he kept Haaland quiet. He kept Haaland quiet throughout the entire match. And off the top of my head, I don't recall Haaland having even a single shot at all, whether on or off target. I don't recall it happening. And every time when Man City had the ball, okay, they didn't necessarily try and look for Haaland every single time, but on the occasions that they did, when they play a long ball forward, or they play a pass forward, or they try to play a cross in or whatever, it was always Van Dijk there. He'd win the ball, he'd win the aerial duels, he'd win the ground duels. He was fast, he was strong. He, at times it felt like he was like a one man defense, a one man wall, just repelling everything that came Liverpool's way. And then even on the occasions when the attack was going through other players, there's other players involved in the attack, not necessarily Haaland. Again, it would be Van Dijk right there to mop up at the perfect moment. I remember one moment that made me chuckle a bit at the right towards the end of the match. So Man City, they have the ball, and I think they're playing like a couple of passes. I think Doku was involved in it. Grealish was there, and I think it might have been Bernardo Silva involved as well. So they play a couple of combination passes. They dribbled through a couple of players, and they took maybe about 4 or 5 Liverpool players out of the equation. And Bernardo Silva, okay, he has the ball in the Liverpool box. He wants to, and I think he's about to like take a step forward or try to push the ball forward and get himself into a shooting position or whatever. And just as they got them past, the bulk of the Liverpool team, Silva turns around. He wants to make his next move forward, and just like that, boom, Van Dijk is right there to clear the ball. And I thought, it's like him again. It's Van Dijk again. It's him again. And just when it seemed as if when they finally might find some joy in an attack that manages to go through other players and go around Van Dijk rather than try to go through Van Dijk, here comes the one-man wall barging into them, and winning a clean tackle and getting, I think it was conceding a corner in this case. He was so good, was Virgil van Dijk. And it's hard for me to think of of any one single player to be the player of the match, mainly because the whole team played so well. Everyone played their part. The defense, they stood strong when they needed to. The midfield, the midfield was so so technically proficient. And the number of times when you have players like McAllister and Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, and then later on came Curtis Jones as well. They know how to receive the ball under pressure or maybe on half turn, and they would just spin around their marker, and they would have all that space. They would have all that space to attack into, behind the pressure line. If you have a midfielder who can, if you have in general a midfielder who can play through this kind of pressure, someone who is press resistant, as they call it, when you can break through that line of, that when you can break through that line of pressure or the wave of pressure, there's that space to attack into. And Liverpool did that so well. On the number of times, there'll be some of the players. One player would play a pass, ostensibly to one of the midfielders, and the midfielder would just, play a dummy and let the ball roll past him, and the next midfielder would be the one picking the ball up. Very smart little, intricate details, in the way they play. Completely different to the midfield that Liverpool had, a few years ago, with Fabinho, Henderson, and Milner. When I think about the midfielders that Liverpool had then versus the one that they have now, it's very much night and day in terms of their skill set and the way they play, and the things that they are capable of. And then the attack. Again, pressing when it makes sense to do so, and in this case, pressing at the right moment, at the right time, forcing the mistakes from the Man City defense was how Liverpool won that penalty, and how they ended up getting the penalty and scoring it. And again, so I say pressing when it makes sense too, because if you press non-stop for 90 full minutes, you're just gonna wear yourself out. And pressing at the wrong time, you will just invite a team of Man City's caliber, of a team of Man City's technical proficiency to just play the ball past you and into the space behind you, because all your players are pressing forward. So just a wow, complete performance from back to front. And it's the kind where I could just enjoy again and again. Like, I want to see some highlights again. And just go yay. So now what all this means is, okay, as mentioned earlier, Liverpool top of the table by 9 points at this stage, ahead of both Chelsea and Arsenal. And it is the start of December. There's going to be a lot of matches in December. There's going to be midweek Premier League matches. There's the match day 6 of the Champions League group phase. There's also the League Cup quarter-final, all in December. There's going to be a lot happening. Probably like 3 days, 4 days, 3 days, 4 days. And I think, with the position that Liverpool are now in both tables, both the Premier League and Champions League tables, they are very, very well positioned to make this a big season.